Alright guys, that's the lab time again. We're gonna take a look to how to configure a BGP attribute in our lab. We have a topology which consists of 7 routers, as you can see, and we need to ensure that router 3 is the best path for the 150 XXX networks which are here, which are the local area networks behind router 5, and we need to ensure that router 2 is the best path for the 200 XXX networks, which are the local area networks behind router 7. Alright guys, as we know that if we don't configure any attribute on BGP, BGP behaves like RIP. So what BGP checks is just the AS path number that it passes through. Okay, if I want to reach the AS 911 from router 1, the path I'm gonna use is here, here, and here, because I'm passing just 2 AS numbers, as you can see, this guy and this guy. If I would go from the reverse direction, whoop, 1, 2, and I would pass 3 autonomous systems, so BGP would not choose this way if I don't configure any attribute. But in the question, it's saying me that router 3 is the best path for this network. So I'm gonna configure something on router 3, and I'm ensure that if I want to try to reach this network in here, I should follow the way by the router 3 this time. Okay, and if I want to reach the other network, this network in here, I should use this guy from going the router 1. Alright, what I'm gonna configure in here is just some access lists again, and I'm gonna hit the access list via match statements on my route maps, and I'm gonna define a local preference attribute. Alright, access list standard IP access list standard, and I'm defining a name access list which name is routes for R3. I'm gonna permit this guy and that 2 network, then exit. Then I'm going to define another access list, routes for R2, and I'm going to hit the 200 network this time. Alright, then I'm going to define a route map. Route map, local pref permit 10, match IP address routes for R3, set local preference to 1000, then permit 20, match IP address routes for R2 and set local preference to 10. Alright, the default local preference value is 100, so by setting the local preference to 1000, for the IP addresses in the access list of routes for R3 are being preferred by router 3. Okay, and I'm also decreasing the local preference of route. I'm also decreasing the local preference of router 3 for the prefixes of that I matched with routes for R2, which means here. So because of the default local preference value is 100, this path won't be preferred over R3, and these paths are gonna be preferred by over router 3. Okay, so I have just one step more to accomplish my configuration. I'm gonna go to my BGP statement, router BGP. Let me check the AS number, 5500. I have a neighbor in here. Which belongs to 777. Oh, remote AS 777. What I'm doing? All right, and here is a trick. When I'm neighboring with this guy, use the route map local pref in. Okay, that's gonna make the trick. Alright, in conclusion, what I defined is just a route map to use the local preference in the BGP. Okay, what I defined is I set the local preference a higher value, 1000 for these networks, to ensure that router 3 is the best path for this network. And I use the lower local preference value on router 3 again to ensure that router 3 is not best path for this network. So the other exit point, which is router 2, is the best path for this network. Alright guys, we are finishing this lab 2, and thanks for viewing.